Hey everyone, I'm late. Super late, but it's okay because this character was absolutely worth it. Today we're gonna go over the Bleeding Spectral Shield through Gladiator League Starter. While the concept may sound a bit unorthodox or unrealistic, I assure you it really isn't. It was a relatively easy character to begin Heist with, and the gear we use is obscure enough to keep this accessible. And if you want to push him further, there's plenty of room for improvement, and we'll go over that in the gear portion of the video. As always, I'll be starting off with the skill tree, moving on to the gear, and finally the Conquerors and Sirus Awakener level 5. I'll also be sprinkling some mapping or heisting gameplay during the guide as well. So before we begin, if you are new around here, be sure to subscribe to the channel, otherwise a rating and a comment are equally helpful and welcome. And just like every other video in this channel's recent timeline, you can skip to portions in the video by following the timestamps on screen right now, or down below in the description or in the comments. With all of that said, let's build around defensive equipment for offensive purposes. Alright then, the skill tree is pretty much the first thing, as I said, and it is actually self-explanatory. But there are some changes from the pre-league guide that actually matter a lot. First, this is a level 92 Gladiator. That is the bare minimum level to strive for. For the Ascendancy stuff, Blood in the Eyes and Gratuitous Violence are the priority. Pain-Forged and Versatile Combatant come second. To summarize our Ascendancy, Bleed DPS, Bleed Booms, and Block. Lots of block. As for the passives themselves, our first goal while leveling is to rush to the left side of the skill tree. We are gonna grab Crimson Dance on the way, which is kinda mandatory, especially against enemies that do not move, like Sirus, and the bleeding notes above it. Call to Arms for free war cries, life, shield, and bleed notes on the way until we reach Unwavering Stance. Now, until you're able to acquire a sword with Resolute Technique as an implicit, you're gonna have to spec into the keystone on the skill tree. This is so that we cannot miss attacks, and since we do not crit to begin with, we really do not get any downsides from it. From there, we are gonna go to the Ranger starting area and grab block, life, and some shield stuff on the way. We do this because we need some dexterity in the character, but also because there happens to be DPS stuff on the way, which is equally useful. After that is done, we need to go towards the shield wheel in the duelist area, grabbing some additional life and damage over time notes on the way, and finally a large cluster jewel that houses 2 medium cluster jewels. The large cluster needs at most 8 passives, otherwise we overspend points. I'd say it's up to you to choose whatever notables you want, and in my case I went with Exploit Weakness and Master the Fundamentals alongside Force Multiplier that is not allocated. I only spent 5 points here, maximizing the usefulness on the jewel in the long run. As for the medium clusters, these need 5 passives at most, or else you overspend points. These are the most important ones because we want Compound Injury on both, as that is gonna greatly increase our bleed DPS against maimed enemies. We are gonna maim enemies thanks to our totem, and also that we maim enemies that are bleeding thanks to the Ascendancy. And the other notable is up to you, really. And now let's talk about the rest of the jewels, beginning with the elephant in the room, which is the Thread of Hope. This needs to be a medium ring, with as low negative resistances as possible, so that it doesn't break the rest of your character. We use it because we get to save up on a couple of points, and we also get to allocate Unwavering Stance, Escalation, Cleaving, and Razor's Edge without having to take additional points towards those nodes. More bleed DPS is always great, and also stun immunity. This Thread of Hope should only be allocated once you get to level 92 and as long as you overcapped those resistances, so keep that in mind. Also, once you socket the jewel in, you can take Solidity for some additional DPS, block, and resists. For the rest of the jewels, Divide and Conquer, which is kinda mandatory because Spectral Shield throw feels like ass without it, and the rest of the jewels need life, bleed DPS modes, and if you are lacking them, resists or attributes. In summary, it is kinda self-explanatory and not overly complex, or at least I hope so. So now, let us talk about the gear. Alright then, this is where things get kinda weird, since we are playing with a Spectral Shield throw and our physical DPS scales off from the armor on our shield. It is safe to say that the shield is the #1 priority when it comes to gearing up. Mine, after using some divines and applying max quality, sits at around 2500 armor. Personally, I recommend getting at least 2300 armor, and you could achieve this by finding a shield with open prefixes to benchcraft flat armor, increased armor, or the hybrid, but make sure that you get as much armor as humanly possible. Currently, as I record this, there are a couple of stronger shields than mine on trade, and if you cannot find one that you can benchcraft on, saving up some currency to get a good shield is not a bad plan. Moving on to the body armor, this is an incursion chest. What I mean by this is that we are using a body armor with hybrid life and increased life as a single modifier, which can drop on tier 3 restoration rooms, or you can trade for one, which is kinda what I did, and I managed to 6-link it myself. We also want as many resistances on it as possible. However, if you noticed, you can stack both the temple mod and the benchcraft increased life prefix, and I recommend doing that if you can. For the helmet, we need the Spectral shield throw damage enchantment and as much life, resists, and if possible intelligence. Anywhere where you can cram intelligence into this character should be a priority to keep in mind, because we need at least 100 intelligence to use some gems, so yeah, do not skip on it. When it comes to the gloves, ignoring mine for a sec, I recommend going for fist damage over time multiplier, resists, life, and an open prefix to craft damage during any flask effect. Otherwise, the ones I currently got with fist.multi, damage with bleeding, a resist, and life are the optimal roll. Next comes the rings. One of them has as much life as possible, fist damage to attacks, and resists, alongside negative mana cost of skills that I benchcrafted. Optimally, damage with bleeding instead of the fist damage to attacks, and if possible, more intelligence. The other ring is the special one. We've got vulnerability on hit as a synthesized implicit, life, fist damage to attacks, resists, and negative mana cost of skills as a benchcraft. Funnily enough, I crafted this one myself by spamming essences of contempt on a synthesized ring until I hit these mods. I recommend doing the same thing, since you can save some currency that way instead of getting a warlord or delve ring with the curse on hit but crappy stuff as well. The amulet has life, a resist, and fist damage over time multiplier, alongside some reduced mana cost that I benchcrafted. If you can get another resist or intelligence on here, that'd be optimal, otherwise something as close to this one is enough. We also anoint growth and decay, however, you don't allocate that unless you are using a thread of hope. If you are not using that jewel, then you go with cleaving. For the weapon, we need a sword with resolute technique as the corrupted implicit, alongside as much damage with bleeding, damage over time multi, and if possible damage over time as a benchcraft. You're gonna have to corrupt these ones manually until you hit the implicit, so keep that in mind when looking for one. Also try to get one with more damage over time stuff. My sword has the bare minimum. As for the belt, it is a Darkness Enthroned, which houses a Searching Eye Jewel and a Hypnotic Eye Jewel. The two jewels have life, resists, and damage over time while holding a shield. And finally, to synergize with the belt's jewels, we use bubonic trails with 2 abyssal sockets. Now, in my case, I made the mistake of housing 2 Searching Eye Jewels in the boots instead of having at least 1 Murderous Eye, so that we can have 3 different types of abyssal jewels and get 10% increased damage per abyss jewel type. In any case, the jewels in the boots have the same modifiers as the ones on the belt. And for flasks, Rummy's Concoction, a Sulfur, and the last one is up to you. I am using a Basalt, but an Amethyst, another Quicksilver, etc. it's up to you. And to grab this character's guide, let's end with the gem setups. On the body armor, a Spectral shield throw, linked to Brutality, Awakened Swift Affliction, Awakened Unbound Elements, Awakened Deadly Elements, and Awakened Vicious Projectiles. If you cannot afford the Awakened versions, the regular versions are just fine, but I do suggest saving up for the Awakened gems. It is a massive DPS increase. For auras, Divergent Malevolence, Herald of Purity, and a War Banner. Divergent Malevolence does nothing on path of building, but in practice helps us deal a bit more bleed damage, so I do suggest going for it. Otherwise, regular Malevolence is just fine. On the helmet, I've got Flame Dash and Enduring Cry linked to Second Wind and Blood Magic. On the boots, Ancestral Protector linked to Maim. On the gloves, a Singular Flame Golem, and on the weapon, Blood Rage and Tempest Shield, alongside a Portal Gem, if you want. And that is pretty much it for the character, so now I'm gonna give you some closing thoughts before I let you go. This character is a lot of fun thanks to the block that we've got, making us impervious to damage pretty often. We are stun immune, we can use Enduring Cry every 5 seconds without having to stop to cast it, we can spam the skill without repercussions because it costs nothing to use, we detonate bleeding enemies, Spectral shield through chains and clears packs in seconds, and much more. All in all, it is a great all-around character that has plenty of space for more improvements if you wanna keep playing this guy for longer. If you can get the awakened versions of the support gems to level 5, invest in a better shield and weapon, and maybe better jewels, you'll be leagues ahead of my build, and I can guarantee that it'll be a lot of fun and even way stronger. So do not skip on this if you can. The only downside is that I am using Blood Rage as both a speed buff but also life leech. This can be avoided by getting closer jewels with notables that grant life leech, but as I said, that is up to you in the end. I saw no need for that, but if you need it, you can invest into those notables as well. But yeah, that's gonna be it for me today. I wanna thank you so much for watching this video, and if you are new around here, don't forget to subscribe, otherwise a rating and a comment are equally welcome. Again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you again soon on another build next time. Peace out.
What's this? A real challenge? You've finally
I can't
caught
do this
my
just yet.
attention. Die.
Watch beauty crumble! Obliteration! You are nothing! Glorious flames!
The others found strength in their projections. They became reliant on them. I am not so foolish. Die. Be silent.
I have seen beyond. Why run? What's the point? Obliteration! Rain of stars! Creation itself!
Is life really interesting enough to warrant all this pain? Die.
This is gold! Why run? What's the point? Why resist? Annihilation!
On the edge of death, my heart races. I am alive.
Is gold! Everlasting fire!
Meaning
Is an illusion. Die. Be silent.
I can't do this just yet.